Welcome to our deep dive. We're looking at the key intelligence affecting Luxembourg's professionals today, May 7th, 2025.
That's right. We'll be covering the latest economic figures, some significant regulatory changes.
Especially around DORA and AML, I understand.
Exactly. Plus updates on corporate law, tax, quite a bit to unpack.
Our goal, as always, is to cut through that noise and give you the insights you really need.
Yes, focusing on what matters for your daily work and, strategic thinking.
Okay, let's kick off with the economy. STATEC just finalized the April CPI figures. The preliminary was 1.7% inflation, hitting that indexation trigger. What's the final word?
Well, the final number confirms it, 1.7% annual inflation.
Right.
And the big consequence, as you said, is that automatic wage indexation. So that means a 2.5% increase.
Across the board, salaries, wages.
Salaries, wages, pensions, social benefits, the lot, effective May 1st. So that's a direct hit on payroll costs and, well, individual spending power, too.
A very tangible shift then. And what about government finances? A Q1 surplus of $337 million sounds pretty positive.
It does. And what's interesting is how they got there. Government revenue was up 10.6% compared to last year.
Wow, 10.6%.
Yeah, a significant jump. And the main driver was corporate tax receipts. Really surged.
Suggesting strong corporate performance.
It seems so, at least for Q1. Spending also rose, but that revenue boost created the surplus. So, yeah, some positive signs for the economy there.
Okay. And still on finance, STATEC's conjuncture flash mentioned big inflows into investment funds.
Huge inflows, actually. 60 billion net assets flowed into Luxembourg funds in Q1.
60 billion?
60 billion. They called it a 4-year high. Shows continued confidence in Lux as a fund center, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And just quickly, housing prices edged up 1.1% in Q4 last year. First annual rise since late 2022. Maybe stabilizing.
Could be. Okay, let's switch gears to regulation. The DORA, the Digital Operational Resilience Act, is obviously massive. The CSSF put out updates on April 9th. What are the key takeaways for, say, legal and finance teams?
Right, DORA. Think of it as the CSSF laying down clearer rules. You've got new circulars like 25880 and 25882 and an amended one, 22806.
Okay.
These are mainly aimed at entities inside DORA's scope. So payment providers, firms using ICT third-party services. They even mention needing a cloud officer sometimes.
A cloud officer. Interesting.
Then there's Circular 20881, which amends an older one, 2750. That's now more focused on ICT risk for entities outside DORA.
So the crucial thing is knowing which rules apply to your specific organization.
Exactly. You need to check which bucket you fall into now.
And wasn't there a deadline change for submitting some DORA info?
Yes. The Register of Information on ICT third-party contracts, you now have until May 31st to get that into the eDesk portal.
Okay, a slight extension there.
Gives people a bit more time, yeah.
And looking further out, the European authorities are working on identifying critical ICT third-party providers, the CTPPs. What's happening there?
Well, the ESAs are collecting info right now from regulators like the CSSF. They're trying to figure out who these really critical tech suppliers are.
And designation would mean?
Direct EU oversight for those providers, which, will definitely impact how regulated firms like banks or investment firms contract with them. It's a big deal.
Got it. One last point on DORA. Reporting major ICT incidents over weekends or holidays.
Yes. A bit of practical relief there. If a major incident happens outside business hours, you can now record it on the next working day. Don't need to scramble immediately on a Sunday morning.
That makes sense. Okay, that's a good overview of DORA. Let's move to AML CFT, anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. The AED has expanded reporting for unregulated AIFs.
Yes, this is quite significant. It now covers all unregulated alternative investment funds in Luxembourg.
All of them?
All of them. They now need to file an annual AIF AML questionnaire and also an RC report. That's the report from their responsible due control.
So, enhanced scrutiny across that whole sector.
Pretty much. Think of it as tightening the net. And there are deadlines coming up.
What are they?
May 31st for RAIFs, that's reserved alternative investment funds, and then June 30th for all other unregulated AIFs. That's for the 2024 reporting year.
Okay, important dates to flag. And the CSSF is still issuing warnings about dodgy websites and firms.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, actually, they flagged a website, www.l-kime.com. Said it's not authorized.
Right.
And there were several others in April, too, warning about unauthorized firms or companies misusing the names of legitimate ones. Constant vigilance needed, really.
Always.
Oh.
Okay, let's broaden out to the financial and legal services industries. The ABBL, the Bankers Association, put forward proposals, something like 40 of them, for simpler EU regulation.
Yeah, around 40 proposals. They're pushing for what they call smarter regulation, focusing on 5 main things.
Which are?
Better coordination between EU rules, making sure regulation is proportionate to the actual risk, handling data more efficiently.
Makes sense.
Supporting innovation, they mentioned, looking at the UK's approach there. And finally, better investor education. Basically, cut the red tape where possible, boost competitiveness.
And the ABBL is also tackling that issue of opening business bank accounts, which can be tricky.
Yes, they're working on it, talking to the CSSF about the Know Your Customer, the KYC challenges. They've even got a list of banks willing to take on new businesses.
Oh, that's useful.
And beefing up training for compliance officers, trying to smooth out that whole process. It's a known headache.
Good to hear they're addressing it.
Yeah.
Shifting to fintech, Loft announced finalists for a boot camp.
That's right, the Catapult Future Foundation Mutualization Bootcamp. Quite a mouthful.
Okay.
The idea is to get fintechs collaborating on shared solutions, things like KYC again, compliance tools, data management, stuff that could benefit everyone if they work together.
Collaborative tech, interesting. And even the CSSF itself is using AI now.
Clarence? Yes, Clarence. It's their own secure kind of air-gapped cloud solution for AI. The idea is to use AI to make their supervision more effective, analyze data faster, but keeping it all highly secure.
Makes sense for a regulator. And EY looked at Luxembourg for U.S. asset managers. What did they find?
They confirmed Lux is a massive hub, over €1 trillion in assets from U.S. managers, not even counting private vehicles.
Wow.
But they also pointed out some challenges for U.S. firms adapting to Luxembourg's regulatory style, which is quite proactive, and just navigating the local service provider scene.
Okay, useful perspective. Let's move into corporate law and governance. There's a new law from April 1st transposing the EU Mobility Directive. What does this mean for cross-border restructurings?
It significantly boosts employee rights in those situations, cross-border mergers, divisions, even conversions.
How so?
Well, companies now have to tell employees and creditors they can comment on the draft plans. There need to be detailed reports specifically for employees explaining the impact.
More transparency.
Exactly. And it also opens the door to extending employee rights to sit on the board in these cross-border scenarios. So definitely more protection and involvement for employees.
Important changes for corporate secretarial and legal teams to note then. Beyond that specific law, what are the core governance principles still key in Luxembourg?
Oh, the fundamentals remain, Shareholder rights exercised at general meetings, AGMs, and EGMs, the board's duties and responsibilities, transparency, accountability, and how decisions are made. That basic framework is crucial.
And as a real-world example, Eurazeo has its AGM today, right?
Correct. Their agenda includes renewing mandates for supervisory board members, standard governance practice for a listed company, but important.
Indeed. Okay, let's tackle tax and admin. Filing season for 2024 income tax is open. Reminders.
Main thing. The deadline for the Form 100 via Guichet is still December 31st, 2025. Plenty of time.
Right.
But remember, the forms came out a bit later this year because of that pre-filled tax return project. And also, good news, that increased tax credit on notary fees, the Vulcan Act, has been extended.
Useful for property buyers. What about country-by-country reporting? CBCR.
There was an update. A Grand Ducal regulation modifying the rules was just published May 6th. So multinationals need to check that for their CBCR compliance.
Okay. Any other quick mentions from the Memorial, the official journal?
Let's see. Memorial A had bits on pharmacists giving COVID jabs and some traffic rules. Memorial B had changes to CNS reimbursement for certain nutrition systems.
Right.
And Legilux published updated, consolidated versions of laws on things like cultural heritage, pharmacy rules, drug control, organ transplants. Handy to have the latest versions easily accessible.
Good resource.
Yeah.
And any recent tax circulars from the OECD?
Yeah, there were a few back in March giving guidance on various tax credits and deductions for individuals. Always worth checking those from the Administration de Contribution Directe.
Definitely. Okay, let's zoom out briefly to the international context. The OECD reviewed Luxembourg's development cooperation.
They did. Released today, they praised Luxembourg for hitting that 1% of GNI target for aid, which is great.
It is.
But they also recommended a more joined-up government approach when dealing with fragile states, better coordination generally, and getting the private sector more involved in development efforts.
Constructive feedback. And the economic mission to Spain just ended.
Yes, focused on high-tech areas, digital health, supercomputing, AI, quantum, space, looking for collaboration opportunities.
Future-focused sectors.
Oh.
And speaking of space, Quite exciting news about that lunar lander.
Absolutely. The ispace lander, carrying the tenacious micro rover, which was developed right here in Luxembourg, successfully entered lunar orbit today.
Fantastic milestone for Luxembourg's space sector.
Really is. Shows the innovation happening here.
So wrapping up today's deep dive,
Yeah.
it's clear there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
Economic shifts, major regulatory implementations like DORA and the AML updates, corporate law evolving.
Definitely. Staying on top of all this is crucial for anyone operating in the legal, finance, or governance space here. And the tax side always needs attention too.
And Luxembourg isn't just reacting domestically, is it?
Yeah.
It's active internationally development aid, trade missions, even reaching for the moon.
It really underscores that dynamic, outward-looking approach.
We really hope this analysis has given you some valuable clarity and points to consider for your own work. Keep digging into these topics. Stay informed.
And think about what these changes mean specifically for your organization, your clients, your practice.
If you found this useful, please do subscribe for more regular intelligence updates.
Thanks for tuning in.
This has been Luxembourg Intelligence News.